Welcome back to another all-wheel drive Miata video, everybody. Today, I don't know what we're gonna be doing today. It really all depends on what parts we get in the mail and what parts we don't get in the mail. And right now, I don't have any parts in the mail. So we're gonna start with wiring. We're gonna start off where we left off. Then we are going to relocate the battery to where it's supposed to be on a Miata, the rear. And then we'll start wiring out the fuel pump and the fans, even though we don't have those yet. And then hopefully we'll get a fuel pump and fans and start doing all that. I'm making this promise right now. By the end of this video, you'll hear this thing run. Whether that's off pump gas or off starting fluid, I don't know, but it will run. And whether it's for a long time because it's got a cooling system or 2 seconds because it doesn't, I don't know, but it will run. Let's go. First thing I'm gonna do is start making some plates. So these rubber, whatever you call them, insulator, no, not insulators, but thing that splits the wiring from the engine bay to the interior stuff. We want those to actually fit in there nicely. So we're gonna do that. So here to the left is all finished. This entire harness on this left side, I'm pretty sure we don't need a single thing from it. So once we verify that it's running and driving and everything's working, then we'll de-pin that, just cut it off. This harness is coming out here with that new plate, nice and tightly, perfect. Comes down the main tube. And then here we have the bracket for all the wiring here, and then the boost controller is right here. I will shorten the O2 sensor so it just goes straight up, but that looks really nice. Nice and tucked up there, nice and hidden from the engine bay. Yet again, made a little plate. So this is nice and tight in there, comes down, uses the factory little clamp. Everything's zip tied together, looks really, really clean. Ground's there, and the starter wires ran up to there. Once we paint the engine bay and we paint the tube chassis and we rewrap the wiring harness to be the same color as the chassis and everything, it's gonna blend in really nicely. It's gonna look awesome. Really excited for that. Next step is to tackle this side. All I really have to do is zip tie the main harness up around the bar and then mount the fuse box right there. So, since we are relocating the battery from up here, where it was on the Subaru, to way in back, we need a very long, very thick wire that connects the battery up to the starter, and then the starter will connect to the fuse box, and then we'll just ground the battery back there. So, hopped on Amazon, bought this 1/0 gauge wire. It is thick, way thicker than I need it to be, but since we're running a long length, this would be probably enough to start like a big V8 from the back, but you know, we've got a little 4-cylinder, but we won't have to worry about this burning out, that's for sure. And then I got some connectors, some relays, and then a fuse box, because I'm gonna be making essentially my own fuse panel for all the accessories like the water pump, the fans, the fuel pump, etc., etc. They'll all be ran through here. This is actually the same one I have on the bus. That thing's awesome. And honestly, before we do the battery relocation, we should finish up welding up these rear bars and then put the fill tube for the gas tank back in, because I'm kind of tired of smelling gas fumes. Looking much better. And look, I can even retain the factory little firewall shield thing that separates the cockpit. I can retain that plate. Is now attached. We got the power running through the car up to the starter, and then I went ahead and beefed up this ground. This is probably like a 4-gauge ground. Yeah, actually it says right there, 4-gauge. So now it's got a 1/0 gauge ground, 1/0 gauge power wire. Like I said, power wire goes up to the starter. Starter has a ground. Well, really, the transmission has a nice beefy ground now too. And then this power wire goes into the fuse box. So that's essentially just replacing the stock harness for the battery up front, relocating it to the rear. We'll grab our multimeter here, check a few things, and then try to start it on some brake fluid. Or brake clean, not brake fluid. Okay, so we'll see if the starter has power. 12.7 volts. Hell yeah. Let's see if this fuse box has power. This is ground. What does that say? Does that say 12.7 volts?
Sure does.
Hell yeah. All right. Woo! Hell yeah. All right, go ahead.
Ready?
Yep. It started!
Sweet.
Woo! That means everything's working. Hell yeah. It was loud and sounded like a tractor, but ooh, and you can smell it now too. Yeah. I was just worried of a fireball coming back out the intake because I'm spraying a bunch of explosive fuel down the intake, but it worked. I'd try to crank it, see the wheels spin hopefully. It's still got some brake clean in there. Oh yeah. All right, you can stop. But yeah, you can see all 4 wheels spinning under power. So unfortunately, we don't have any fuel system parts. We don't have any cooling parts, so we can't work on that stuff. I spent some time getting the Subaru all torn down and out of the shop. So now the drift truck's in here, the Audi's in here. They're nice and safe from the weather. But now we're gonna go ahead and address some of your guys' concerns about wheels and the rear suspension stuff. You guys have been asking, what are we gonna do with the rear wheels? Because obviously, this is a different lug pattern than the front, and you have to run the exact same tire on the front and the rear of an all-wheel drive car, otherwise it can mess up with the transmission. So, thankfully enough, Sparco actually offers the same exact wheel in a Miata lug pattern. The problem is that the offset is way too high, so it sits way too far in. In order to get it sitting where this wheel sits, we'd need a 3.5-inch spacer, which is sketchy, and we're not gonna do that. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna extend the control arms, which will lift the car more, give it more travel, make the track width wider to match the front track width. It's also gonna help with the axle angle, because you guys have been mentioning that. It's not too bad when the car's on the ground, but it's still on the limit of a CV axle, so it'll help with that. And then it'll also technically soften the spring rate a little bit, because the front spring rate is softer than the rear. So we're gonna extend the control arms. That will fix all of our suspension issues. It'll get the wheel sitting where we want it without using a huge spacer. Oh, there you go. Let's do it. Bonjour, bonjour. Good. Not bad. It's definitely taller. Got a little bit of positive camber, which is fine. Let's try to settle it a little bit. Damn. So it's definitely taller in the rear now. That's good. The overly negative camber has been corrected, so now we can align it and have neutral amount of camber. Up front, I went ahead and got some stock WRX springs, and those are in there now. But it looks like with the lift that we did in the rear, the front is now still squatting. So we're gonna just put the Forester springs back in, I think, because another inch or two should get this to be about level, because now the rear is still a little bit too tall. So it is quite tall, but hey, it is a rally Miata, am I right? That looks pretty good down here. Everything seems to be holding up. I'm gonna beef them up a little bit once I pull everything apart to have it powder coated. The track width in the front and the rear is now like almost identical. So we're gonna get probably a 1-inch spacer up front, 1-inch spacer up back, just to fill the wheel well a little bit, because that's not quite the fitment we want. But now instead of having to run a 3.5-inch spacer back, we have to have a 1-inch, so that's good. I'm sure a couple of you guys have already commented this, but yes, this has caused 2 issues. Number 1, we're gonna have to make new axles because they need to be longer now. And number 2, we have to get new brake lines because the brake lines are not long enough to reach the calipers. So we'll have to get those 2 things, but everything else fixed, so that's good. I am exhausted, so that is gonna be it for this video. We got the rear suspension all sorted. We'll get the front suspension sorted when we put the Forester springs back in there. Got all the wiring finished, so now with the Miata battery in the back, it cranks and it will run. This week, actually probably the day this video goes live, I'm getting the parts for the cooling system and for the fuel system. By the end of this weekend, yeah, whatever. We'll have a running and driving all-wheel drive Miata. So that's gonna be pretty insane. And of course, if you wanna see the next video where we do either the fueling system or the cooling system, you can see it right now on Patreon if you become a patron. Yet again, thank you to everyone for the support on that. It's been unreal. Thank you to everyone for the support on YouTube. It's also been unreal. I can't wait until we get this thing 100% finished. You know, running and driving, it's gonna be cool, but that's not even gonna be close to being done. There'll still be a lot of work to do after that. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Peace out. Goodbye. Have a great day.